What is your name and where are you from?
My name is William English, also known as Will, and I'm from the United Kingdom, from Newcastle, right up north near the border of Scotland.
What do you do for a living, Will?
I'm actually retired. I was military for 23 years. I came out the army when I was aged 40, which was 15 years ago, so I'm 55 now. I worked for about 7 years and I was made redundant, and I looked at my military pension and thought, you know what, I can live on this, and that's exactly what I've been doing.
What was your first bike and how long have you been riding?
Well, it's a little bit complicated because in the UK at 16 you can get at my age when I was 16, you could get a 49cc bike, but it doesn't have pedals. So it's classed as a moped. So I had a little Gilero, I think it was. And then when I joined the army, I had a little 250 Suzuki. And then I kind of went off bikes and I settled and I got a car at the age of 18, passed my test. So when I came out of the army in 2003, I was kind of, I'd just been diagnosed with osteoarthritis in my knees, so I couldn't ski and I couldn't windsurf anymore, so I was looking for something to do, and I figured, well, let's go and take the motorcycle test. So I took the test, and I actually, 3 weeks before I took the test, I bought a Yamaha Virago 535, which is the cruiser type, because I always had this, I don't know, idea of like easy rider style, crazy, but in my mind all the time that I had a car, I always used to think if I have a motorbike I would have this cruiser thing. So I bought this cruiser, and from there I joined the Virago Star Owners Club, and the rest is history, as they say.
So what type of riding do you do and what motorcycles do you have now?
I progressed from the 535, it was a little bit underpowered. I got a little bit more confident. I then got a Suzuki Intruder 1500, lovely bike, but it lacked a tank range. It was very limited, it was about 140 miles. So I ended up on a V-Strom, which is my dream bike, and from there I actually got persuaded not to take a V-Strom around the world. So for my round the world trip back in 2012, I went on a Yamaha TT600 single in enduro style, and the bike was about this. Well, I'm not a tall guy, so I kind of had to used to do a run and jump every morning to get on it. So I finished that, and then I came back to America and I bought a V-Strom, registered it in Florida, and I went from Key West, Florida to Alaska. And then on the way back I had something like, I think it's 36 states that I haven't been to, so I decided I would do a huge big zigzag. So I went all the way up to Maine and kind of zigzagged my way back down all the way through the states that I hadn't done. So I've now ridden all 49 states. I just needed a way. The motorbike I have now out in America, I have this little RV, and I have a little Honda Grom 125cc. She's an awesome little machine. She's got a top speed of about 55 miles per hour. Tank range, 1 gallon tank, gets me about 100 miles. It's like $2.20 to fill up. It's amazing. And in the UK I have the same setup. I have a slightly bigger RV, and I now ride a KTM Duke 390, which is again fantastic. I get out of Spain, I park up and I use the bike as my daily ride. I'll either do a mountain ride or I'll do a beach ride or whatever takes my fancy.
So you say that you've ridden around the world on the Yamaha. What are some of the places that you rode in?
My round the world trip started off in England. I went down through Europe, so I did Holland, Germany, Austria, Slovakia, Romania and Bulgaria, into Turkey. From Turkey I went into Georgia, across the Russian border at Georgia, into Mongolia. I had a month in Mongolia, absolutely loved the place. And then back into Russia. I then shipped from Russia to South Korea overnight. I spent a couple of weeks in South Korea. I then shipped my motorcycle from South Korea to Tacoma in Washington, USA. I then flew to Thailand and did Cambodia as a backpacker for a couple of weeks while the bike was being shipped. I landed in the US. Actually, I landed in Canada, and I took a Greyhound bus because it was one of them I needed to tick off my bucket list. I, I'll never do it again. It was an experience in itself. So I took a Greyhound from Vancouver, Canada to Seattle, Washington, or Tacoma. I picked my bike up, and then I did a bit of a weird. I went inland to Sturgis first to meet up with some friends, and then I went back down to the Highway 1, did the Californian coast in a Big Sur to a Horizons Unlimited meet, and then from there it was getting cold. It was about October time, so it was starting to turn chilly in the US. So I literally hugged the Gulf of Mexico through Texas and Mississippi and in Georgia down to Florida, and I made Daytona Beach. I actually got a photo of me on Daytona Beach. That was my end point, an official end, but to me that was my end point. I'd done 20,000 miles. It'd take me 9 months to do, and then I took the bike down to stay with friends in Punta Gorda, Florida. So it was another couple hundred miles. Finally ended up in Miami, Florida, to ship the bike home back to England.
So does any one experience stand out most, and if so, why?
My one experience, and I kind of got railroaded into it. It was a trip called the Scooters in the Sahara. It's been running for a few years, and there's a guy called Dennis organises, and it's basically taking Honda C90s, which are smaller cc than that thing, down from England. You get a ferry to Spain, you go all the way through Spain, you get a ferry to Morocco, you go through Morocco, Western Sahara, Mauritania, which is still officially a war zone, into Senegal, and then finally into Gambia, where the bikes are donated to the hospital in Bangsang, and then from Bangsang the doctors and nurses use them to go out and do clinics and whatnot. I kind of say I got railroaded into it because it was a month before my round world trip, and I had so much prep to do for the round world trip. And but I saw the presentation, and the guy just kind of touched me, what he was doing, the whole, taking things for kids. We took footballs, and we took, I went around my club. My club used to get t-shirts done for all the rallies, which we'd probably wear once for the rally, and that was it. So I went around and collected all the old second-hand t-shirts. I probably had about 100 to take with me. And I don't know, it was a group ride, and I hate group riding. I prefer to ride either on my own or with somebody else. So, and it was kind of rushed because we only had 3 weeks to do this long length. The bike's speed's like 45 mile an hour tops, but for me, it's just in my heart. I could almost just burst into a smile thinking about it. It was a crazy trip. It was a one-off, but it was fantastic.
So tell me, what is one valuable lesson that riding motorcycles has taught you about life in general?
I would say it's pay it forward whenever you can. I had a guy, I stopped in a cafe one day in Russia, in Siberia, on my own, and I'd stopped for a bowl of borscht, which is like a meat and veg, meat and potato soup type dish, really cheap, like $1 for a big bowl full, very filling. And the guy who owned the cafe brought me out chicken and water, and I was like, well, I haven't ordered it. He said, no, he didn't speak very much English, and I spoke very little Russian. And he kind of touched his heart, and he said, it's from my heart. And all he wanted was a photo of me and him and the motorbike. So from that day on, I've always said, right, wherever I go, I'll pay it forward. Now, there was a guy, to give you an instant to pay it forward, I was driving this van last year in the middle of, in fact, I was going towards Devil's Tower in Wyoming, and I kind of spotted a guy on a highway. This was an empty highway, I hadn't seen anybody, and I thought he was mowing the lawn at first. I'm kind of driving up, and I'm going, and as I got close, I realised it was a motorbike on its side, and the guy was walking. So I kind of threw the brakes on and pulled over and reversed back, and I said, what's the matter? And it was a huge big Harley Davidson sports tour thing. The guy had stopped to take a photo and put his side stand down, and the bike had just gone over. Well, we hugged and tuffed at this bike for about 10 minutes, and I mean, I was in sandals. I was like, let me go and put some shoes on and try and get, and we just couldn't get it up. It was so heavy. So I said, hang on a minute, I've got some straps. So what we did was we tied a strap to this rack, and I actually started, I said, do give us a shout when it's upright, because I didn't want it to go all the way over. But for me, you know, I couldn't have just, he said cars had driven past them as well, and that's like, why would you do that? Why would you see somebody stranded? So I try and pay it forward where possible.
Is there anything else that you'd care to add?
I think I've just about summed everything up.
Well, I appreciate your
I
time.
have to say this, I am being bitten to death by mosquitoes as we sit here. I'm just going to have a quick scratch.
Thank you very much, and safe travels.
Thank you.